Pluribus is the new show by Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan. It's sort of his return to sci-fi because he also worked on X-Files. So the show begins with two astronomers who discover an extraterrestrial signal that repeats every 78 seconds, and it's coming 600 light years away from Earth. They get a bunch of other people to try and figure it out, and they know it's some kind of sequence, but they don't really know what it means, or if it's like a song, or if it's a message or something. They just know that it's some kind of sequence. So they kind of go back and forth on what it could be, and ultimately they find out that it is some kind of recipe, specifically for a virus or similar to a virus. It jumps ahead about a year into the future, and now there's a bunch of scientists trying to figure out what the sequence means. So once scientists figured out what the recipe was, they manufactured the DNA and started to test it out on animals, mostly rodents. In one scene, they're testing it out on a rat, and the rat bites a human, and when that human gets infected, they just go completely calm, and then they transfer the virus, for lack of a better term, by kissing other people. And look, it's Stopender. At this point, we're also introduced to our lead character, Carol Sturka, who is played by Rhea Seehorn from Better Call Saul. She is a popular fantasy novelist who kind of seems a little unhappy with her situation. With her publicist, who's I think also her girlfriend, they talk about how she wishes that she could write what she wants, and you kind of get the feeling that she's compromising for sales. Like she's compromising what she writes about so that she can make a living. They have this line in the bar where her publicist is saying, hey, maybe you write like something like really great and one person gets it, and maybe that's enough, or something along those lines. I think that's kind of interesting because I wonder if Vince Gilligan or the people making this show or the people writing this show kind of had that same mentality, like I wonder if they felt like they were taking a risk with this. So far, I don't think they are, because I think this is a very accessible show, and it's definitely worth your time so far. Anyway, so the weird thing about this signal is it's not what you think it is. Like, it's like, when I look at this show, I think it reminds me of the Borg from Star Trek, or that hive mind that Rick dates in Rick and Morty. It reminds me of a collective, which it is a collective kind of, but it's more so taps into something that was already here. And as we know, at least, all the people you see and interact with in the show that are a part of the collective, per se, they're not necessarily of an alien mind. They're just like of kind of a shared consciousness that was activated by this recipe. It's not like they are the aliens, although when I'm watching the show, I kind of feel like when Carol's talking to these people that they are the aliens. They feel alien to me. There's a point after they're drinking at the bar, Carol and her publicist, they look up at the sky and they see a bunch of jets flying over, and it's implied that they release the virus or the DNA or whatever. I'm just going to call it a virus for lack of a better term. There's a Kirtland Air Force base either in Albuquerque or right outside Albuquerque. So that's probably where it came from. Anyway, so this causes everybody to have like a temporary seizure. I think it lasts, I want to say several minutes, but not too long. I want to say like 5-ish minutes or so. Someone correct me in the comments on how long it actually is. Then we learn later that over 800 million people die at that moment when everybody sinks into the hive mind. So the weird thing is Helen, her publicist, is incorporated into the collective while she dies. That's kind of weird. So like they have all of her memories and stuff, even though she's dead, which is kind of weird. Carol is the only one, at least the only one in America, who's not affected by this. She puts Helen in the back of her truck and she gets the hell out of there. And she tries to drive her to the hospital, but of course everybody's part of the collective, so she's also already dead, so they can't really do anything for her. But she does save a baby from falling off the counter, so that's nice. Anyway, after all this crazy stuff, she goes home. She turns on the TV to see like the government can tell her what to do, and she sees it's actually not the president, but it's like, I think it was like the nearest person that was there. He explains everything to Carol about how, humanity is essentially cured in their eyes, and how they are all part of a collective hive mind now. But again, it's not a consciousness, as far as we know, it's not a consciousness of another world. It's just something that kind of unlocked into human DNA that made them all collective, which is pretty interesting. But it didn't affect Carol, and there are other people on Earth that it also didn't affect. There's just very few of them. So this is a lot for Carol, and she drinks herself to sleep and wakes up the next morning, and she starts to dig a grave in her backyard for her publicist, Helen. And while she's doing this, like random people and like neighborhood children and stuff like try to help her, and it's like really creepy. And the weird thing is, in episode 2, they send her a person to help her. They sent her this specific person because they resemble someone from her book. And it was supposed to be like a love interest. And she points out that this person who looks exactly like a person from her book is a woman version of someone from her book. And she kind of like puts the book up to her face and she's like, you look exactly like my book character except a woman version. I was originally going to make it a woman, but I talked myself out of it. How would you know that? Only I knew that and Helen knew that. So how would you know that? And then she tells her that she has all of Helen's memories, even though Helen died because part of the collective before she died. So she kind of gets freaked out and she screams at her. And this is really important. When she does that, she faints. The other woman faints. This negative emotion causes them to all kind of have a temporary relapse or a temporary seizure, which again lasts for several minutes. And during that time, I think she kills 11 million people die, unfortunately, which is pretty freaky. So they go back to digging the grave and they actually fly in machinery to help them dig the grave, which is funny. But then she asks her about other people that are like her, and she asks to meet with all the ones that speak English, which, by the way, these people are very helpful. That's another creepy thing is they're not, we could spend a lot of time later speculating on what their goals could possibly be. She demands to meet with all the English speaking people who are like her, ones that weren't affected by the collective. And they set up a meeting and she finds out that one of them, they all come from like different countries, but one of them, he said his name is Kumba de Abate. And de Abate, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but he took it upon himself to basically treat himself like a king, which makes complete sense. And none of this is said, it's all shown, and I love it. Vince Gilligan is very good at show, don't tell. The fact that you just see that he's basically treating himself like a king because he can is so human and not at all surprising. He's got like supermodels and like he looks like a billionaire, you know, or a sultan or something. It's great. Anyway, so they meet in the Air Force One room or whatever. I forget what that's called. It's been so long since I've seen Air Force One. That's a good movie. They actually talk about that movie for a minute. Anyway, they meet in the little room and they meet about how, like, what they're going to do. And Carol immediately just starts talking about how we have to save the human race and this is an invasion. And everyone's like, well, is it though? Like, no one else kind of feels the same way she does, which is interesting. Everyone else is kind of like, I mean, they kind of did like fix a lot of things. No one's murdering each other. You know, there's no crime. There's no like genocide. Like that last one you could debate because later they find out that they did kill a lot of people in the process of, I don't want to say invading, but like in the process of merging the collective. You can make the argument. I don't know. Anyway, so she gets a lot of pushback, basically. Not only that, but they kind of, one of the women points out that, you know, she killed 11 million people by being negative, you know, by being very emotional. Anyway, they have a dinner and Carol's getting drunk as hell and it's great. They find out that these people are all vegetarians because they can't murder anything. But if he kills like a chicken or something, then they can prepare the meal for them, but they can't go out and like kill a cow and give you a hamburger, you know? So he has to do the killing, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so like I said, Carol is just really hitting the sauce hard, and I love the way she walks away in this one. She tells everybody you're failing the human race, and then she storms off, but I love the way she storms off. She's like swinging her arms like this. It's really funny. She freaks out at them again because all this is just way too much for her, obviously. And she freaks out at them again, and then she kills more people. Like, it happens again, right? They have their little seizure, and it happens again. Like, I wonder if they're faking to control her. Like, I wonder, that would be kind of interesting, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so she wakes up the next morning and she makes a comment about how she's the biggest mass murderer since Stalin. It's dark. I love this show so far. All the other people left because they were mad at Carol for having another outburst. But Kumba Diapate stays behind. He asks Carol if he could take Pirate Lady home with him. He says that she won't go with him without her permission. So after having a heated argument about it, she lets her go. But just as she's getting on the plane, she kind of looks back at Carol. And this causes Carol to run back for her, which kind of begs the question of their individuality. I think they're kind of poking hints at their individuality. On the way home, Carol asks Zosha about the other people that are like her that don't speak English. And she calls one of them on the phone, but he only speaks Spanish and he's not answering the phone. There's like one moment where he answers and he calls her some names and then she calls him right back and then calls him some names. And that's pretty much all we get till next episode. Hopefully he shows up again later. So Carol makes it clear to everybody that she doesn't want anybody remembering Helen. She wants to be the only person to remember Helen. It's creeping her out that they know all this stuff about her and Helen. She also tries to go to Whole Foods and realizes that they took all the food because they're trying to like conserve, like they're trying to equally distribute all the food and stuff, which is nice. And she goes, can I just have my Whole Foods back? And they're like, sure. So they bring like a whole truckload of people and they just restock the whole it's actually not a Whole Foods, it's a Sprouts. I actually have a Sprouts kind of near me. And she's like, I just want my Sprouts back. And they just give her the whole store back and leave. And I thought that was funny. So Carol's not feeling super great. She keeps drinking and binging Golden Girls. I mean, aren't we all? But she asks Zosha to drink with her. And she also sarcastically asks for a hand grenade in this episode, but she never expected them to actually give her one. While they're drinking, she kind of gets angry with Zosha and she takes the pin out of the hand grenade, not believing that it's actually active. Zosha grabs the hand grenade, throws it outside, and there's a big explosion. Zosha is injured in this altercation, to which Carol rushes her to the hospital. While at the hospital, a guy from DHL tells her that, remember they're all in the collective mind, he tells her that Zosha's going to be okay. They're grateful that Carol acted so quickly to save her life. But then Carol starts to ask questions about like, okay, I didn't think you would give me a grenade. So what are you, does that mean you would give me anything I asked for? And he says yes. And she's like, well, would you give me a tank? He also says yes. So this kind of, I think, kind of gets her wheels turning because now she's thinking, okay, technically I could be like, this is just what I take from that. That means she could be a military superpower by herself if she wanted to. Another thing I should mention, in the first or second episode, Zosha tells her that they can't protect them from each other, them being the people who are not affected by the hive mind, right? Them who are not part of the collective. That kind of indicates to me that there's going to be some difference against them, like, because now I could kind of see them like going to war with each other. They all have like different point of views. This paints a pretty interesting world. I'm very interested to see where they go from here. Anyway, so that's Pluribus so far. Pretty interesting. I think I need to sit with it a little more because gears are definitely turning, but let me know what your thoughts are because I think as the show goes on, I'm going to have more and more theories, but I think there's definitely going to be some altercations with the two of them. But I have so many questions. Like there's going to be altercations with the people who are not part of the collective for sure, but then they are also going to use all the resources because the collectives are being so helpful to each one of them. So that's going to be kind of interesting. Pushing the boundaries of that, I think, will definitely be a big part of the show. I'm also interested to see if we get any origin on the transmission from space, right? If we get any origin on like where that came from, that'd be kind of interesting. Anyway, that's Pluribus. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.